What's up, Pirates? This is Jim with AwakenedTCG, bringing you guys a rundown of the new Queen deck coming out in OPO4. For anyone that doesn't know, this is going to be Queen. He is a blue and yellow leader with 5,000 power and 4 life, your typical dual color leader. And Dawn ×1, when he attacks, if your hand and life total is 4 or less, so this ability is a bit confusing, just to preface, but basically, if your hand plus the amount of life you have is at 4 or less, so your life could be at 3 with 1 in hand, or your life could be at 4 with no cards in hand, you could have no life with 4 cards in hand. Any total that's going to add up to 4, that is when this effect will trigger while you're attacking with the Dawn attached. You're going to draw 1 card after that. And then, if you have an 8 cost or higher character on your board, you can place up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life instead of drawing that card. So you basically draw that card to your life and you just heal 1. So this leader is really good because later in the game you're going to have these big 8 cost or higher units that are going to be clearing their board on play. And you're going to be gaining life the same turn, basically being immortal. This is one of the only infinite life regeneration sources in the entire game. If you get your opponent in a bad spot, it's going to be almost impossible for them to kill you if they don't have something like rush units or something like that, because if they only have leader attack and you have 1 life, there's just no possible way they can win. Not to mention the mass amount of blockers that this deck runs. Anyway, let's get into the build. So this deck is built around a few large units that are going to cost 8 or less and trigger our leader effect. It's going to be Mihawk, 8 cost Katakuri, and the new SR 9 cost Yamato. So Mihawk I think is pretty self-explanatory. He's a pretty strong play on 9 with a 9,000 power. He's been a staple in blue since set 1. Most of you guys know what this does. He's going to get rid of your pesky stuff that can't be KO'd by effects or have revive effects like Marco's. And then we have our 8 cost Katakuri, probably one of the best cards in yellow. He is another card that's going to be able to remove just a lot of things in the game that are really annoying to get rid of. Another complete staple that you're going to be able to play on 8 1 turn early compared to these 9 drops. If you're going on turn 2, you can play him on curve and then use your leader effect next turn if you meet the criteria. And last but not least, probably our best play, especially later into the game when we don't have a lot of life, is going to be Yamato. For those of you that don't know and haven't seen this card yet, she's going to be a 9 cost and 9,000 power, very similar to Mihawk. And on play, you can KO any of your opponent's characters with a cost equal to or less than you and your opponent's life totals added together. So if I have 2 life and my opponent has 3 life, that's a 5, right? And I can get rid of any of their 5 cost units, just KO it on play. And then, that's not all. If you have 1 life or less, you can add 1 card from the top of your deck to your life area. And that is only if you have 1 life or less. So 1 or 0. So a very strong on play effect. It can get rid of any body that's kind of low. If you're usually at 1 life, it's going to be a low body, and also heal at the same time. And then if you meet Queen's criteria, you can actually heal from 2 to 3. So that's a double heal on 1 turn. That's going to be definitely one of our strongest lines later into the game. Anyway, let's go over our blockers. Firstly, we're going to have our 2 blockers that we can play off trigger. Just start your typical 3-1 trigger play this card blockers in Boa and a Brule. These are going to be really good to actually keep cards out of our hand and get stuff on board, because when you have too many cards in hand, Queen cannot activate his effect. So this is a deck that actually kind of wants to run low on cards in hand, very similar to Ivankov in set 2. And then next we'll have another trigger blocker. It's going to be the new SR Sanji. He's just a 4/5 blocker with, on trigger, you may trash 1 card and play the card. Really strong card, one of the cards that's going to kind of push yellow over the top next set. This card is not only good for blocking, it's one of your best attackers. If you see lethal, it is just a simple 5k. It's going to get off good swings if you're not scared of dying next turn. But also, it's going to be a decent blocker that can't be popped by these weak little KO effects in red. Unless they obviously minus its power, but that is just more cost that they have to use to get rid of it. Also, not to mention, trashing the card and playing it can help you meet Queen's criteria of having 4 or less combined total. And last but not least here, we have Don Quixote Doflamingo from set 1. Obviously a very strong card. We all know this. Usually ran in the Doflamingo deck, but in this deck, it's actually going to be great because when you place the top 5 cards in a certain order on your deck, you can play this first and then use Queen's Effect to place the card that you put on top of your deck, because you know it's there, into your life. So if I play this and I say put Brule on top, I know when I use Queen Effect, Brule is going to be there and I can play accordingly. Very strong card and also a blocker to boot. Next up, let's go over the 2Ks. We have Kaya, is just a 1-cost 2K counter. Really good card in this deck because you're going to see we have a lot of bricks, obviously, with our big cost units here. So if you have too many, especially in the early game, play Kaya, trash 1 or 2 of them, and filter out your hand. Also, the fact that it is very low cost is really good for getting rid of cards out of hand if we want to get to this 4 or less criteria. Next up, we'll have Sasaki. Really like this card. Don't see too many people running it, but I think it's definitely warranted. It's going to be a 3-cost, 4,000 power with 2K counter. So pretty good stat line, actually. And on play, it's going to return all the cards from your hand to your deck. You're going to reshuffle your whole deck and then draw an equal amount of cards to the cards that you reshuffled into your deck. So it's basically another mulligan, which is really strong, especially if you get these ugly opening hands with like a 2 Yamato, 1 Katakuri, and like a Sogeking or something like that. This guy can filter that out and get you back in the game really quick. Very good 2K counter with another good use. And last but not least, our probably best 2K counter is going to be Capone Gangbage. And if you guys don't know about this card, this is a card that's going to make yellow absolutely devastating to play against next set. I am not looking forward to it, but it's just a simple 2K counter, 3 cost, 3,000, right? Doesn't do anything. But then you look at its trigger, up to one of your opponent's characters or leaders cannot attack during their turn. So getting this off trigger, especially if you put it there on purpose with cards like Doflamingo, is going to be insanely powerful. If they have like a big Newgate or a big Mom on board, this card can just say, no, you can't attack this turn, I'm safe, and then we go for game next turn or something like that. Also, a 2K counter, definitely amazing in this deck. And now that I realize I forgot to mention, we have Pound is going to be another blocker. I told you we had a lot of blockers in this deck. Just a 3/3 blocker with 1,000 counter. And on KO, he's going to place one of your opponent's cost 3 or lower characters on the top or bottom of their life face up. Now, this doesn't seem great at first, but this deck kind of struggles against aggro like Zoro. So this card is kind of a necessity. On KO means even if they use a KO effect on it, it's still going to get its use off. You could put stuff like a Rush Zoro into their life, and sure, you may be healing them, but this deck basically outlasts any other deck that's not yellow in the entire game just because of the massive life gain. So you can add Zoro to their life and it doesn't really matter. Also, it increases Yamato's pop effect because now the life is increased. So this card is actually really strong in this deck. I was iffy on it at first, but after testing it, it's actually pretty strong. Now, one of our mid-range cards, kind of our only mid-range card next to Sanji, is going to be Sogeking, definitely not Usopp. So we know what Usopp does. On play, he's going to draw 2 Trash 2 and then return a 6 or less to the owner's hand. This can hit a lot of great targets next meta, and it's kind of just another Kaya filter for bad hands, but on a decently sized body that you can play in the mid-game. But anyway, we're going to go to our events. We have no counter events in this deck, just 2 removal events. These guys also can kind of clog your hand, but they are just way too good not to use. We're going to have 3,000 Worlds from set 3. Everybody knows by now this card is disgusting for 4, placing a 5 at the bottom of the owner's deck. There's no counter to this card, with a great trigger as well if you don't want it in hand. This card is a must run in this deck, I'd say. Next up, we have Red Rock. 3, some people may argue, is a bit too much and it can kind of clog up your hand at times. But this card is just way too strong. And I think there's going to be way too many large targets next set that you're going to be able to just hit with this card, making it basically a staple in almost every blue deck, I am assuming. And that's going to cover the deck profile. and the reasoning why we run all of these cards and these ratios. But anyway, let's get into some gameplay. Alright, looks like we've got a game against green and purple Doflamingo here. Looking at our opening hand, it is not terrible, but I would like at least one big body in it, so I'm going to mulligan this. No big bodies, but it honestly is better. I could play Kaya here, but I'm not going to. And just pass back to him. Looks like he's going to pass right back to me. So, we have a couple plays here. But before we do anything, let's just swing 5. And after this, whether he takes or doesn't take, we can either just play Boa, or we can play a Searcher Doflamingo. Wow, that is a pretty unfortunate trigger for us, but it is fine. Let's just play Doflamingo, see what we got. So we are at 3 Dawn. So this is going to be 5 Dawn, 7 Dawn, 9 Dawn. So which one of these 3 do we want to draw on our 9 Dawn turn is the question. I doubt he'll get us to 1, so let's leave Yamato back. Katakuri is good against a lot of his things, but if he plays like a 7-drop Luffy, I think we'd want to play Mihawk. So let's put Mihawk 3rd here, and the rest afterwards. And then we're going to pass back to him. Now, if he swings into me, I'm probably, especially for 5, I'm definitely going to counter it out with the Boa, just because it's our least valuable card to play out of hand. He's going to play a Diamante, which is going to give us a perfect 3,000 worlds, which we will be using this before he has a chance to block with it. Could play a Kaya for 1, but we will not. I'm just going to attach 1 here. We're going to swing 5 twice. As swinging 6 lets him give us 1 2k. However, if we do this line, he can't swing here. He's probably not going to swing the leader. He's probably going to swing at our blocker, which is fine. If he swings 5, I might even counter out. Just because this deck is a deck that thrives off of having a lot of, or not many cards in hand. But he's going to swing 6. Definitely not worth to counter out of that one. He's going to play another Diamante here, which we're just going to send back with our Soga King. And we can trash 2. We're going to trash our other Soga King. And it's going to be Sanji or Kaya. Next turn we're playing Mihawk. Probably getting rid of Sanji here. And we're just going to swing 5. See what he does here. He's going to give us a 2k. What I've noticed playing against these green purple Doflamingo decks, they have a lot of 2ks and not a lot of 1k counters, surprisingly. Like, they either have no counter cards like this Nami and Luffy, or they have 2k counters like this and any other 2k counters like this one here. No blocker. We are going to counter that, and like I said, we drew the Mihawk on the turn we needed it. We will play it on the Luffy, giving us a free bottom deck there with the perfect stat line. And let's swing 5 with leader first. And we will swing 6 with Usopp. Sorry, Soga King, how could I? He's going to give us a 1k counter with Diamante. And he's going to give us another 2k with Soga King. Kind of got him on the back foot here with a 9k on board. He's going to play Sugar, resting nothing, just making it a little more difficult for us. And he's going to swing 8 at Usopp. We actually can't counter out of that, so that's fine. And a 5k here. I don't think there's any chance we could possibly use leader effect next turn, so we're just going to take this. That's a fantastic trigger for us. Not affected by Sugar. And from this point, so, few plays. We can play Katakuri on Brûlé, which is actually a pretty decent play. And I think that is probably what we're going to go for, because he's going to rest my Brûlé regardless with his Uta, if I had to guess. Which is completely fine. He's going to rest Brûlé, like I figured. And we will swing 7 to his Nami this time. Probably going to give us a counter event if I had to guess. Completely fine, as I said, and we're just going to play Katakuri on Brule, add it to the top. He'll activate Sugar Effect, which is fine. If he has a 10-drop here, it's a bit rough for us. Not going to lie, but we do have a life gain next turn, most likely, which is good. He's thinking about it here. I'm guessing just because he's thinking about it, he might not have it, which would be really nice. 10-drop here is also just a great card against Queen in general, because not only does it prevent leader swing from gaining life, it prevents the multiple big bodies that you're going to have on board and resting them, which is later into these turns, it's basically Aiken to KOing them, which is insanely strong. Thankfully he doesn't have it. He's just going to go 10 at our Katakuri. Believe it or not, we're actually going to counter out of this. Thankfully he does not have 10-drop. Now if he wants to attach all 5 here, he's going to need 3 at least to KO Katakuri. If he KOs 5, if he goes 5, he can definitely KO Katakuri. But he would not be able to search in that case. If I was him, I'd probably do 3. Or maybe he's planning to play a 5-drop like a Diamante. Nope, he's just going to go all 5 on Katakuri, playing around a 2K, which is great for us. Now with 4 in life and 2 in hand, unfortunately we cannot activate Queen's effect, which is completely fine. We are just going to take out Nami here. He'll have to give us that one. And we're going to play Yamato, and we will take out Sugar, so the card does not get rested. Unfortunately, not activating leader effect here, but that is completely fine. He's going to take that, probably doesn't have a 2K to use. Looks like he got 10-drop, possibly out of life there, or drew for turn, which is fine for us. So let's just give him this Brule on board. Get the trigger effect, which is nice. 3 in life, 2 in hand, we're at 5. So in that case, we're probably going to want to play this Soga King. Probably sending his Buena Festa back. Maybe not sending anything back. I don't think we care about the Buena Festa. Oh wait, he's rested leader. Sorry, I didn't even think about that. We actually can't use leader effect. So in that case, we might just swing big with Yamato first. Let's swing 9, make him give us 2 cards. Oh, and he had the Punk Gibson. That is actually pretty unfortunate. Okay, in that case, let's just send Brule back to hand. And we will trash 2 2Ks here. And we'll play Brule back out and pass to him. Not bad. If he has another 10-drop here, which I don't think he has, just because he didn't play it the prior turn. Unless he just drew it, I don't think he has another 10-drop here. If he does have another 10-drop out of these 4 cards, we would be a little screwed. We could probably stall for an extra turn, but the fact that we're not going to be able to heal off of leader if he had another 10-drop is going to be pretty rough. And if he decides to attack here, we will most likely just 2K out. We're going to use blocker if we have to, if he overswings, just because I don't think we have to worry about this blocker getting rested. The only card that can actually rest it is Sugar. And if he does play a Sugar, that's completely fine. He's going to swing that. If we can counter out of it, we're going to counter out of it. So we will use that here and see what he does. Swinging 5 with leader makes me kind of scared. He did get another 10-drop. He's going to go 10 to my 9. We're going to block that. And see what he's got. Okay, thankfully it is just a 7-cost Luffy, which will not screw us over. And we got a red rock. So 4 and 4, we could just use leader effect right now, but I think I want to prevent him from blocking this turn. So we're going to use red rock, send that to the bottom. We're going to swing with Usopp first for 7. Either has to give us a 4K event, or he has to give us a 2K and a 1K out of hand. He's going to give us a 4K event, as I suspected. We'll swing another 7 with Queen, gaining a life, since we only have 3 cards in life and 0 in hand. And 2 9 costs on board. And with 1 card, I don't think he can beat 9K. He's going to take that, and we'll put the last on Mihawk, swing 10. And that is going to be the game. Ending in the exact amount of life we decided to start with this game. This is the type of stuff Queen can do if he gets going later in the game. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. And if you do want to play Queen, I think it's a fantastic deck to get started with. It is going to have a lot of expensive cards. Like just for right here, we have a Secret and 2 SRs. But it is going to be really fun. It's not going to be a meta dominator, but I do think it's going to be a meta contender. So if you like the character Queen, or if you just like playing big bodies and gaining life, I think this is a really fun deck to play and pilot. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has been Jim with AwakenedTCG, and I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.